at the end of the day, this is about going 1-0 against a team that's going to be extremely ready to play, physical. It was a back and forth kind of gritty game last time we played in Tennessee. And, we do have more football left, but that's not what the focus and mentality is right now.
How impressed have you been with the focus of your guys, some of whom have not been in these kind of stakes before?
Yeah, I think it sometimes can almost help where you're a little bit, I don't want to say naive to what's going on, but you're just, again, really focused on the daily, hourly, game by game improvement. That's all we can really focus on right now. That's been the message is, hey, let's get our best effort, mindset, execution, preparation, all of that this week to go 1-0. And it's a division opponent, a team that, obviously doesn't probably like us too much. And that's just the way it goes in division, right? And that's just the way those games go. And you're excited about these opportunities to play meaningful games in January and in December.
You talked to the team about that? You mentioned they don't like you and they got a little chippy the first go around.
They know. I don't got to tell them anything about this game. I don't got to tell them a single thing. So they're extremely aware. It's going to be one of those type of football games where we understand that they've improved, I think, Tennessee, in really all areas. I mean, it's one of the best run defenses in the National Football League over the last X amount of weeks. They are scoring more offensively. You can tell that Cam has definitely found a little bit more of a rhythm. They're getting the ball out of his hands, some more RPOs. They're running it well. There's not a lot of quit in that football team in Tennessee right now.
It's well documented throughout the season about how the offensive line has had to be, kind of patchwork and guys getting hurt and guys stepping in, and it's all worked out well. But do you think the secondary had just as many challenges with injuries, and the product they keep putting on the field, no matter who's at what position, is still been pretty good week in and week out?
Yeah.
What do you attribute that to?
Yeah, I think that's it's a very fair, great point. It's a group of guys, I've said this before, that are extremely unselfish, that all they've wanted to do really is prove worth and continue to get more snaps and to get as much. And what they get and what they do on Sundays is because they earned it. And because they earned the opportunities to go out there and do it through their preparation, through practice, through, doing it on Sundays as well. And so Milo, Perk, those guys have done a phenomenal job, I think, getting those guys ready to play, no matter who it was and who it's going to be every Sunday. And credit that group. I mean, Buster, Greg, Murray, Dewey, Jarian, Braz, Antonio, all those guys have played. Obviously, Jordan Lewis being out now. But so many of these guys have played and made huge plays for us this season at some point or another. And look, they just put their heads down, work. We're typically a little light in the defensive backfield in terms of how many guys we're actually carrying per game. And they don't say anything. They just keep working. They keep preparing. They keep practicing the right ways. And I think Buster had almost 4 PBUs last weekend. I mean, a lot of guys go throughout a whole season without 4. So, proud of that group, and you can definitely see a lot of the similarities between the OL room and the defensive backfield with the amount of guys that have been able to contribute for us this year.
With Jeffrey Simmons, is he the best defensive player you prepared for this year?
If not, yeah, I would say he's right there without question. And it's such a pain because they do a good job moving him around. You can expect him to be at one place at times, but then in base defense, he'll move a little, and then in known passing situations, they'll move him around. He's extremely strong. I mean, what he does to people out on that football field that are grown men is pretty impressive. Seriously, I'm not comparing to Aaron Donald, but I was with Aaron on a daily basis, and I saw what he did to other grown men a lot, and it was like, wow, all right, dude, you're different, right? And that's kind of how I see Jeffrey that way, is he's just different. And it takes a village. It takes a group effort to prepare for a game record like him, yeah.
I know you guys have played against him before, but just what is your focus when you're going against one of the top returners like you are this week?
DK? Yeah. We've got to be obviously improved from where we were last week in terms of the kickoff coverage, a little bit more disciplined in our responsibilities and roles on those teams, and then also doing a little bit of a better job coming to balance, same foot, same shoulder, being able to shed blocks, strike blocks, and just play with better fundamentals and techniques. We know this is a good special teams unit, not just the returner and DK, well-coached group and all that. And so we're going to have to be more disciplined, have a little bit more of that mindset and mentality to get off blocks, strain, and go make plays on it, but not outside of the scheme, right? Let's stay within the structure of the kickoff coverage and go do what we've done at a high level throughout the majority of the season.
Tony's talked about there's a standard if you're going to be a Jacksonville Jaguar player or whatever. What is that standard? What do you tell those guys is that standard, the player?
Mentally and physically tough dudes that love to play football and they love the game of football. That's where it starts for me and for us as a team is there's so much that goes into being a professional football player, right? And you try to, within a team, that's obviously the number one focus, right? But every individual has to be able to fit into that team differently, right? Because everybody is truly different. And so those standards, though, don't change, right? Those standards are the way that we want to operate on a daily basis, the way that we want these guys to ultimately care about each other and care about the team first. Knowing that there's going to be adversity within a season. There's going to be hard times. You might lose your job for a week. You might be able to get your job back in a week. You might be active. You might be inactive. You may have a great game. You may not have a great game. Well, that's mental toughness. And so guys that can withstand those type of, different ebbs and flows in a season, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, what has stood out about the way Spencer Whipple's worked with Trevor Lawrence and also worked with you and Grant?
Yeah, Spence is, we go way back, I hosted Spence on his official visit at UMass. Fun time. And his dad almost might have killed me. But we had a good time. And then, Spence was with me for a few years. Spence is just so good for me, for the staff, because of how you talk about the 3 C's, calm, cool, collected. Like, you always want your quarterback to play like that and be that way. And that's Spence. Like, he's always like this. And obviously I'm not. And so it's really good for the buffer and for the guy in between at times. Trevor and I's, conversations, communication, relationship is somebody that does not ride those waves and get too high, get too low. And he knows how to handle me on game day and also throughout the week. And I think he's done a phenomenal job with Trevor, with that communication, but also the amount of work that they spend, the amount of time that they spend together doing extra. That's not easy to do. It's a commitment by Trevor, first and foremost, like to be challenged, to want to do extra, to want to do more, and Spence for the amount of time that they put into it, right? There's a lot of details that go into a game plan, none any deeper and more important than the quarterback position. And so Spence has done a great job. I'm not surprised at all. Not surprised whatsoever at how calm, cool, collected he's been throughout this entire season. And now that, everybody's like, oh, he's playing well now. Nothing has changed about the way that Spence has coached him. And that's what I'm proud of.
You were talking on McAfee about sometimes guys just need, I guess, the right fit, the right situation. How much is, like, guys like Spencer and all the stuff that we don't see or people don't see, part of that right fit?
Yeah, so much of that. So much of the behind the scenes, like everybody, obviously you talk about the head coach, the quarterback, you talk about those things, right, and the coordinators. But, the amount of people that make practice just operate on a staff is insane, right? And that operation goes into, that's, a huge also reason why the quarterback is able to have more success, or the receiver, or the running back, whatever it is. It truly takes a village, right? It's not just one or two coaches that, man, you can point to that, and that's why there's improvement. It's so much that goes into an entire staff per side of ball, truly being all on the same page, having the same goals, communication being like this. There's going to be hard times. There's definitely frustrating times within a staff and a season, but I think this group has done a phenomenal job of just going to the next week, continuing to send the right message to our players, and keep getting them motivated each week. That's not easy to do as a coach at times for this amount of games, this how long we've been doing this for all season. I feel like I was just hired, like not long ago. And so that's the fun part, though, when it goes fast and you're doing it with a group of people that you care about, and they push these guys, which I appreciate.
Trevor's having his best season running the ball. He talked a little bit about finding the freedom to be creative. But what's that balance where he's able to freelance on plays when it breaks down and playing the grade, but not overdo it?
Yeah, that's just playing, man. I definitely wasn't the best athlete as a player in the world, but I do recall when you were playing free and you were just kind of going without thinking too much, you just naturally move more. Like you do. I mean, the ball is going to spit. The ball is going to come out when you want it out, and when the timing and rhythm, anticipation all calls for it, right? But you want a guy that does have, let's call it a superpower, right? Or whatever it is, like something that they're good at. Well, you don't want them to ever feel like they're boxed into a call. You just don't want them to feel that way in terms of, man, I have to throw the ball either here, or this play is going to suck. That's not how you want them to feel. You're like, man, he's going to make this play come to life, regardless of what happens, regardless if it's open, not. He takes the right or wrong footwork, or he ends up having to beat a free hitter and go make a play. Like, that's football. That's really what it comes down to. And so often we can get caught up in the scheme and the X's and O's and the play. And it's like, nah, it's about the players making those plays, yeah.
Kind of the whirlwind this season has been. After this week, is there a second where you can kind of stop and smell the roses, or is it immediately on to the next thing?
Yeah, I can't imagine we're going to have too much time here, that's the beauty of this league, though. It's so humbling that you don't have that time, and there's not a lot of people that are truly happy at the end of the season unless you're holding, the big one. And so that's the most humbling part about this profession and about this league is you put in so much time, you can do so many good things, but there's only one team that's really thrilled at the end of the season. And you got to figure out a way to go do it all over again. And so no matter what occurs, you're able to, you have to reset your mind and go play the next week. I mean, I just saw Sean, his comments after the Atlanta game was like just how humbling of a game this is, how humbling of a profession this is, that gives us the opportunity to get off the mat and go do it again, no matter what the circumstances were. Win, lose, or draw, you got to get off the mat and go prepare for the next game, and nobody cares because it's all about the next one and the next opportunity.
Coach, thank you.
Great. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. To what do you attribute the versatility of the guys you have back there, the coaching that they're getting, and having this result of no matter who gets hurt and who's not available, the guys go in there and perform?
Yeah, it's a resilient group of guys. They're constantly helping each other. If you're in that meeting room, there's great dialogue. I think Coach Milas has done an unbelievable job with those guys. With the corners specifically. Anthony Perkins has done a great job with the safeties. And, we have some other periphery guys who have done a great job coaching as well. Like Drew Lascari has been phenomenal with our guys, some of the young guys especially. Just the post-practice, pre-practice, all the extra stuff that they're doing, you see that stuff showing up and paying off. And our players here are more into that as a collective than anywhere else I've ever been, which is awesome. That's just kind of the culture. It's like, do more. You get better at football by playing football. So They've put so much time into it, and I think that's a huge part of it. Next man up philosophy.
Even though he's not going to play, can Jordan still help you from a leadership standpoint?
Without a doubt, he has. At certain points in the season, really done a great job of helping us in every which way he can. Even in the game, you watch him on the sideline. He's really not too far from me. You know what I mean? He gets the call. He's helping guys when they come off the field. He's talking to guys who aren't in the game at that moment. And he is about as locked in as anybody on the team and on the staff. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Bill Sheridan, too, because Bill is, he was a defense coordinator in this league, and he's another guy, another set of eyes, and another resource for our defensive backs who's been phenomenal and been a huge help to me. So I think their development just overall, I would attribute that, one, to the players, how committed they've been, and they've done everything we asked them to, and then their coaches.
How much growth have you seen from Jarian? Because remember at one point he was like, I've never played zone in my entire life.
Yeah, I've had a great time watching him growing to what he is right now, and I think he's only getting better. He's constantly progressing. We were talking about this as a staff the other day. In meetings, he sits like he's a guy, like he's front row. He's asking great questions. He's taking notes. I think Jordan was a great example for him and a great resource for him. He was constantly asking him questions in Jordan's early days, early on here when he got here. And they have a really close relationship, friendship. And even since, Jordan's been here, I just see Jarian in his own way doing extra. I know I've said that about a lot of guys, but he is a guy specifically who's done that and really taken to the techniques. And a lot of that stuff is, when they're not within the time frame of when they're on the practice field with us, they're doing extra away from here together or away from us together, which I think has been a huge help for him.
He's a rookie, but how does it change things when you go against the same quarterback for the second time? I guess the way it's shaking out this season, this is your last week of the season, but first time going against the same quarterback.
Yeah, he is super talented. And I know when we had played them the first time, I had talked about how much they had progressed at that point, but even more so, I think, since we've played them last. They've been putting up a bunch of points. I think he's done a great job making decisions. He keeps a lot of plays alive and does so with his eyes down the field. So he's generating chunk plays that way, obviously navigating the rush and then still being committed to getting the ball down the field. So he does a tremendous job of that. I think his decision-making is something that jumps out to me that's been really, really good. There's some other things that they're doing in the run game I think that he's very good at, and obviously Pollard as well. He's been a big help because their offensive line has generated some lanes and some space for him in the run game, and I think they've been on schedule and done a very good job.
What do you stress during the week to kind of prepare for what Cam does in terms of just extending the plays? It seems like he has several plays this year where he's ran around forever and is still able to find a guy.
Yeah, you've got to do a great job plastering. So it's really an eye discipline issue. You have to. A lot of times in the red zone that comes up, right? But for this guy, it comes up all over the field. And like I said, he is absolutely willing to run and has done damage with his legs, but he's been lethal. Keeping his eyes down the field, keeping a play alive in the pocket, and then getting the ball downfield for chunk plays. So we have to do a great job of plastering, covering, obviously playing within, even if we're playing zone coverage, right, getting our matches, and then continuing with our eyes on those guys down the field. And then in the rush, you got to be disciplined. You have to be disciplined against this guy. If he's got B-gap step up or, he gets an opportunity to get outside in the perimeter, he can do damage. So that's really been a huge part of what we've been emphasizing with our guys.
Third down defense during the streak, 5 times under 40%. Are you getting into better distances for third down, or are you guys just playing better coverage and rush?
A little bit of both. We've had, I think even in the Denver game was probably a good example of guys just doing a really good job in situational football. Like we didn't have a lot of advantageous, third and, 7 pluses in that game, but we did a really good job in the third and short area. Short yardage, we were good. Third and 2 to 3, we were actually very, very good. And a couple of those last week that came up and helped us. And I think some of that is guys just being more familiar with the situations, the things that we're going to do in those situations, and taking that game plan, which each week is different, but taking that game plan from the practice field and the meeting room to the game and executing really well. So we've gotten some really, really good execution. And I think a lot of times on third down, there's so much going on with motion and right all that stuff offensively, what they're checking. Our guys have done a really good job communicating. And that also speaks to, like, they've been out there a little bit longer. You know, they've been out there a little bit more. Some of these guys who weren't playing early, they've got more reps out there, and they've done a great job with it.
What Antonio Johnson has been able to do this season, just how impressive is that from kind of training camp to now where he's, playing consistently?
Yeah, been very impressed with Antonio because he does a bunch of things for us. You know, early down, I think you probably saw last week, he played a bunch closer to the line of scrimmage and did a great job with us, for us. And then obviously down the field, on the back end, covering man-to-man, playing underneath zones and matching. I think he's been really, really good since he's been in there. And he's progressed quite a bit throughout the season. So I'm really, really pleased with him. And he's another guy, I know I've said this a bunch, but he's another guy that does a whole lot extra. It's important to Antonio.
I think it's like 4 weeks in a row where Trayvon's made a really important tackle for loss for you guys. What does it do for the defense just when you have a pass rusher who, as talented as he is, still sets the edge really well?
Yeah. He's just got such multiplicity to his game, and he's so physical in the run game. A great teammate. He's not looking to go outside the scheme ever. He's a guy you can count on to do his job all the time and just play physical, play with some edge, play with some nasty out there in the run game, and you really value that. He's a guy that takes pride in that, not staying blocked and finishing back to the football. I think there were some opportunities or some plays the other day against Indianapolis where, they got a hat to account for him, and he comes back, doesn't stay blocked, and makes a huge play, puts them behind the sticks. That you probably can't put a price tag on. He's just been so good for us and keeping teams behind the sticks, getting us into advantageous second down situations and sometimes advantageous third down situations. So, I love the guy. I love the way he plays. I said that a bunch in here, but he's everything we want to be as a defense. And when you have one of your guys who's a leader doing things that way and practicing that way, makes it very easy as a coach to get that point of emphasis across and develop a culture.
How excited are you for your brother going to Connecticut?
Fired up for him, man. Yeah, I'm gassed up. He's in a great food area too. New Haven ain't too far away. That's a great pizza town. So which I think was a huge part of the decision for him. But I'm really fired up for him. The whole family's fired up, and he deserves it, man. He's worked his tail off, so I'm excited. Appreciate you guys.
Some stability on the offensive line a little bit. Consistency. But last week Jonah kind of stepped in at center. How important has he been? The growth you've seen from him from stepping in the door to being able to replace Robert Hainsey and kind of hold it down for the veteran.
He's had a huge impact, not only out there on the field being able to step in, but even in the meeting rooms, in the classroom, in the walkthroughs. His communication, his preparation is phenomenal. Same guy every week, every day, consistent, diligent, hardworking. Not only preparation, but his effort and strain and physicality and finish out there on the field. So probably can't say enough good things about Jonah. I know I feel that way. I believe the guys feel that way playing with him. The communication was still at our standard, trying to get everyone on the same page. Of course, we have things we can improve here and there, but for him to be able to handle that as a rookie is really impressive.
A lot of the young guys have stepped in, and you guys have pointed towards some of the veteran players, Robert Hainsey, or one of the young running backs, Travis Etienne, the leadership. How important has some of those veteran guys been for these young guys to be able to step in and hold the standard?
Huge. And the staff appreciates their buy-in to what we've tried to create here, because as much as we preach it, it really doesn't come to fruition. It doesn't materialize unless they embrace it. They're the ones that ought to live it. They're the ones that got to go out there and execute the things we're talking about every single day. So it really starts with their buy-in as a veteran standpoint, from the starters all the way down to the practice squad guys. When you have that environment where the best players and the guys who have been around are doing the hard things, and they're doing the hard things right all the time, it makes it hard for the other guys to not do those things. So it's contagious when they have that type of work ethic. And then what you love to see is the love for the teammates. When those guys are pulling a rookie aside to give him the extra coaching points or to give him a reminder, give him a tip here and there, that is so special to see those guys, the care that they have, because they've got so many other things to worry about. If I'm Travis Etienne, if I'm Robert Hainsey, if I'm Trevor Lawrence, I've got my own billion problems that I got to worry about. I'm sure I'm not feeling great. It's towards the end of the season. I'm tired. But to go out of their way to help those guys, it shows you how they feel about each other, which is really special.
Grant, Lawrence had that 37-yard pass to Parker Washington with the interior pass rush. What kind of guts did he show in that play to sort of throw it, knowing he's going to get depleted?
Yeah, exceptional. An exceptional play. It shows you his mindset, his toughness, his ability to attack defenses and stand in there,
knowing the issue, knowing he's going to get hit, but trying to take that shot, especially in that situation. I mean, that play probably encapsulates who he is as a player, being selfless, standing in there, knowing you're going to get hit, delivering in a crunch moment, critical play, and to give another guy a big play down the field, delivering an unbelievable throw. That's a play that I'll probably be showing quarterbacks and players for years to come. That's a really phenomenal play by him.
Follow up on Lawrence, as coaches, it's about trial and error and also time on task. For you and Liam and Spencer this year, how did you sort of build up that patience that, hey, he is doing some good things, but there are a lot of things still to iron out?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know that I would necessarily even frame it as patience, because I think there's a commitment from the top down, starting with Liam to the staff, to the quarterback room, to every player in there. There's a commitment to our process. And there's an understanding when you're committed to that process and you're not dictated by results, that whether it is a positive or negative result, you're sticking with the process the next day regardless. So it's a beautiful thing in the sense that you don't have to be concerned about, hey, we got to wait another week to see if this works out. We got to wait another month. We're going to stick with that process. Now, we're going to try to improve the process whenever possible, but we have a lot of faith and belief in that process, and that really starts with Liam and what he's built here and the foundation and the attitude and the mindset that the guys approach every day of work with. So it may sound like a cop-out answer, but it doesn't require that feeling of patience and sitting around, and that there's not a lot of stress to say we need this at a certain time, because we do have that mindset of just going 1-0 today or 1-0 in our process, whatever it may be.
You're all judged on the results, so how do you balance that?
Well, you have the understanding that if our process is right and we continue to work at that process and we continue to improve that process, then that will drive the results. But if we focus on the results and try to work our way backwards, we know that we're going to get caught up somewhere else along the way. Because if our goal is that we're going to go out there and win 12 games, and we say that in the offseason, or we're going to win however many games, win the division title, that's a great goal. But you're not going to be able to do that on a Tuesday in May, right? Yes, as much as you want to try, I tell you guys, hey, you guys want to win 2 games, you can try to win 2 games this week, but it's going to be really darn hard. I don't know if you're going to be able to do it. So whether you like it or not, the only thing that you can control is this current moment. So we talk about being what now, just focusing on the present moment right here. So it's really not up to us. As much as we say, I certainly understand that it is easy to focus on those things because that's what everyone else is talking about. But when our mission is to try to improve on that process and execute that process, you really have no other choice. There is no choice but to attack that process every day. So that's kind of the mindset that the guys approach it with.
2 red zone turnovers, but you guys were able to move on past that. How important is it to have a short-term memory as like an offense overall and buy-in?
Yeah, that's a huge point. That's why we talk about being what now, because you want to live in the past, you're going to die in the present. So if you continue to focus on those things that happened, then you're going to let 1 loss turn into 2 losses, right? Because the more attention you spend on that, you're sitting there ruminating about it, the less opportunity you have to improve and focus on what you need to do now. So we try to learn from all of those mistakes. When we make a mistake in the red zone, we learn as much as we can from it, and then we move on from it, because we got to be focused on the next play. It takes a long time for some guys to get used to that, right? Because guys are so used to getting beat up over a turnover or a fumble or a missed block, but we don't have that luxury. We got another series coming up. Our defense is going to get us the ball back pretty quick, and we got to go out there and be able to execute. So players and coaches, it takes not only all 11, the entire offense to be bought in on that and say, we got to focus on what now.
With Sweat and Simmons as a duo, how much does it kind of change the approach during the week when you have to prepare for 2 really good interior guys as opposed to maybe just 1?
Yeah, another really good question. Makes it an unbelievable challenge. The problem with those guys is you want to get double teams on them, but you can't double team everybody. And then even if you do get double teams on them, they're still beating double teams. So it makes an exceptional challenge where you can't always just try to attack that by allocating more bodies to the problem. You got to have creative ways to have different runs, different protection schemes, different personnels, different formations, different ways to try to mitigate all the disaster that they can kind of create.
Over the course of early season training camp, we were asking you about Trevor's progress, the growth, if you were seeing what you needed to see. And he's playing some of the best ball of his career right now. Was there a moment that you can think back to where you say, he's got it?
That's another great question. There's definitely little moments here and there where even all the way back to the spring, there are times in practice out there where you're throwing routes in 7-on-7, where he throws a route where you see his hand separating and he's starting to throw. He's made the decision to make a throw. And if you were to pause the picture, I can think of one in specific down in the red zone we were throwing, and there was about 5 guys standing in front of the the receiver that he's about to throw to. But he's starting his arm, and he's making that decision ready to throw. And, of course, as he lets that thing go, those defenders start to move with his eyes as he's pulling a defender out of the way, and that thing opens up, and he's throwing it on time, and the offensive receiver sitting there right on the goal line, and it looks like the parting of the season. He's just sitting there and gets an awesome completion. I mean, there's moments like that, but there's 100 of those moments over the course of the spring training camp. We just don't always get it to show up on Sunday. So when it doesn't show up on Sunday, that's why you don't lose that faith and confidence in the process, because you see it out on the practice field. We're with each other so much. You hear about it in the meeting room. You understand the conversations that we have, that there is progress because of the way he's verbalizing, what he's seeing, how he's seeing things, how he's trying to make decisions. So that's one. I mean, you have that play even on, the other day where he's throwing that high cross that Ryan's talking about across the middle of the field. There are still plays that he has even now that it takes me a second to catch my breath because of how exceptional they are. So that's really all him. I would love to take credit and say that's part of our process, but that's him being a phenomenal football player, and that's his work out there.
You guys design trick play, you run it in practice all week, it's fine, it works great, and then in the game it doesn't work. How deflating is that, and does that impact decisions on future trick plays, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that does. I think the deflating, I mean, I try not to, I don't know that we'd say it's deflating, but I think in the sense that you're disappointed that you turned the ball over, right? Because there are certain plays where they don't go your way, but you got another chance at 2nd and 10. You got another chance at 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 5, whatever it may be. I think giving the ball away, anytime you give the ball away, whether it's a trick play or whether it's just a regular run or a pass on an interception, those are the things that you look back on the end of the year that you always wish every one of those play calls, every single one of those plays, the execution of it, you want those back. I don't think that the having a trick play that doesn't work, goes wrong necessarily is deflating, because I think the guys understand we're calling those plays because we believe in them. We believe that they can go out there and execute those plays. Those cause a little extra ball handling. They take a little bit of extra element of skill or execution out there, a little higher level of difficulty. But those are fun for the guys to practice. They're fun for us to put in, and they're fun to see those things when they do come to life. We understand they're not all going to come to life, but it's the same thing with any other play. We got run plays and pass plays that don't always work too. So we got to accept the risk when we're trying to get that type of reward. Awesome, guys. Thank you, guys. Happy New Year.